Well, hello, and welcome to Story Time with Daddy. And today's story is Rapunzel. Mr. and Mrs. Rose lived in a small house that looked onto a beautiful garden. A garden they never dared enter because it belonged to a wicked and powerful witch. Mrs. Rose would sit by her window and gaze at the garden for hours. But lately, she had spent a lot of time thinking about food. Today, I'd like chocolate pudding stuffed with spinach. Mr. Rose wasn't surprised. Ever since you've been pregnant, he said, you've wanted to eat the oddest things. Or perhaps, Mrs. Rose went on, I'll have bananas, Brussels sprouts, and toothpaste. Toothpaste? Oh, yes, that would be lovely. Are you sure? Asked Mr. Rose. Yes, Mrs. Rose replied. I am, although I still think something might be missing. Wait a moment, Mrs. Rose cried, pointing to the witch's garden. That's it. What is? That vegetable. Oh, it looks so green and juicy. I must have it. Well, you can't have it, said Mr. Rose. I'm not going into that garden. That's the witch's garden. But if you do, I must have that plant. Mrs. Rose began to sob. And after 3 hours of crying, Mr. Rose gave in. And that night, when it was dark, he crept into the witch's garden. These vegetables all look the same in the dark, he thought. How am I meant to know which one she wants? So he grabbed the nearest vegetable and raced home. You silly sausage, cried Mrs. Rose. You've brought me a turnip. You'll have to go back again. Next time, Mr. Rose looked carefully around the garden. Well, this one has green leaves. It must be right, he thought. But as he pulled it out of the ground, he shuddered, and a foul smell crept up his nose. He looked up and screamed, Ah! The witch was in front of him. Mr. Rose could smell her disgusting witchy breath. How dare you steal my Rapunzel? The witch cried. I'll make you pay for this, you thieving little pimple. I'm sure you'll be very tasty. Please don't eat me, begged Mr. Rose. He was shaking with fear. I was taking it for my wife. She's about to have a baby, he stammered. Said the witch thoughtfully. A baby? A baby? She paused for a moment. I'll make a deal with you. I won't hurt you, and you can have as much Rapunzel as you like. Thank you, thank you, thank you, said Mr. Rose. But you must give me the baby as soon as it is born. Mr. Rose was so terrified he agreed immediately. He walked slowly home, shaking his head with worry. Maybe she'll change her mind, he thought desperately. But as soon as his wife gave birth to their daughter, the witch appeared. The child is mine, she cried. She gave a wicked grin. And I shall call her Repunzel, after the plant you stole. Now give. Mrs. Rose wept and wept. Don't take my baby, don't take my baby, she pleaded. Too late. The deal is done. She snatched the baby and vanished. Rapunzel lived with the witch for 11 years, and she was treated like a slave. Get me 10 slugs for my spell. The older Rapunzel became, the more beautiful she became also. She had blue eyes and long golden hair, and it flowed from the top of her head, down her back, past her feet, and all along the ground. Rapunzel's getting too pretty, thought the witch. I'll have to lock her away. I don't want any young men running off with her. And on the morning of Rapunzel's 12th birthday, the witch woke her
I have a lovely surprise for you, she said. We are going to the forest for a picnic.
The forest was deep and dark. It didn't seem like a good choice for a picnic. And in the very middle of the forest stood a tall tower. I don't like it here, Rapunzel said with a shudder.
Well, get used to it, cackled the witch, because this is your new home.
The witch cast a spell,
Alakazam!
and Rapunzel found herself in a small room at the very top of the tower. I can't live here, cried Rapunzel. There's no way out, no stairs, no door.
You don't need to get out, said the witch. I just need to get in, and I can climb up your hair.
Well, maybe I won't let you, said Rapunzel.
Then you'll starve, said the witch with a shrug. Come on, let's try. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair.
Rapunzel heaved her hair out of the window, her long locks tumbling down the tower and landing at the witch's feet. The witch climbed Rapunzel's hair and leapt into the tower. 4 years went by, and Rapunzel never saw anyone except the old witch. She was very, very bored. And no one in the world knew where Rapunzel was until one day a young and handsome prince rode through the forest on his horse. Rapunzel spotted him from her window. Help! She cried as loudly as she could. Please help me! The prince looked up astonished. Don't worry, he called. I'll save you. Spurring on his horse, he galloped to the tower. Prince Hans to the rescue, he called. He rode around the tower 3 times. I can't find the door, he said. There is no door, Rapunzel told him. This is a magic tower. I'm being kept here by a wicked witch. You must climb up my hair. Well, I've never done that before, said Prince Hans. This is harder than it looks, you know. What's your name? He asked. Rapunzel. Prince Hans almost fell off her hair laughing. Just what's so funny? Rapunzel asked. You've got the same name as a vegetable, said Prince Hans, still chuckling. Oh, said Rapunzel, who thought her name was rather pretty. Perhaps I'm too funny to rescue? Not at all, said Prince Hans as he reached the top of the tower. But how am I going to save you? You're the prince, said Rapunzel. You think of something. Prince Hans looked around the room thoughtfully and spotted a pair of scissors on the table. Gosh, he thought, I'm brilliant. I know, he cried. I'll cut off your hair, we can make a rope, and we can both climb down it. You are not cutting off my hair, said Rapunzel. Have you any idea how long it took to grow? Fine, replied Prince Hans, but you'll have to come up with something, or your hair gets it. Rapunzel thought quickly. Visit me every night and bring a ball of silk with you, and I'll weave a ladder from it. But that'll take ages, said Prince Hans. Rapunzel frowned. Which isn't a problem, he added quickly. After that, the prince came every evening. He told Rapunzel about his kingdom. I live in a beautiful castle, he said. There are courtyards full of fountains and flowers, and turrets that touch the clouds. And as the weeks passed, Rapunzel's ladder grew longer and longer. Only one more week and I'll be free, she thought to herself one morning.
Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. I have some food for you.
As the witch climbed up, she pulled and tugged on Rapunzel's hair. Ow! Cried Rapunzel. Why do you always tug so much? Prince Hans never hurts me when he climbs.
What? Prince Hans? Who is Prince Hans? You wicked girl. I thought I shut you away from the world, but you tricked me.
The witch leapt into the tower, grabbed a pair of scissors, and cut off Rapunzel's hair. until it lay in a heap on the floor.
"And I haven't finished,"
cried the witch, and with a powerful spell she cast Rapunzel into the desert,
"Alakazam!"
far, far away. And then the witch waited for the prince, a sly smile on her wrinkled face. That night, Prince Hans called out to Rapunzel as usual. "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." And her hair came shimmering down the tower, as usual. But when the prince reached the top of the tower, he gasped in shock. An ugly old crone stood in her place. "Where's Rapunzel?" he demanded.
"Rapunzel's gone," said the witch with a sinister laugh. "And you'll never see her again."
Then the witch leaned out of the tower, kissed Prince Hans with her slimy "Yuck!" cried the prince. It was a magic kiss, and suddenly the prince's hands were covered in slime. He lost his grip and fell to the ground and landed in a bush. It saved his life, but the sharp thorns blinded him. "Ah! I can't see! I can't see!" Despite his pain, Prince Hans stood up. "I may be blind," he shouted to the witch, "but I'll find Rapunzel."
"Never!"
Prince Hans wandered for months seeking Rapunzel, and at last he met a camel seller who told him about a girl with golden hair and blue eyes living alone in the middle of the desert. Prince Hans hired a driver and the fastest horses he could find. "Take me to the desert," he said. Rapunzel watched the carriage arrive in amazement. As Prince Hans stumbled out, she ran to him, put her arms around his neck and wept. And 2 of her tears fell into the prince's eyes, and he gasped. "I can see," he cried. "Rapunzel," he said, "I never thought I'd say this to a girl named after a vegetable, but will you marry me?" "Oh, yes," said Rapunzel. Prince Hans took Rapunzel to his castle. The entire kingdom was there to their wedding, including Mr. and Mrs. Rose, Rapunzel's mummy and daddy. Princess Rapunzel and Prince Hans lived happily together for the rest of their lives, and in time had 3 beautiful children: Pumpkin, Lettuce, and Sprout. And now, my darling, it's time to go to sleep. So close your eyes, and remember, I'll see you soon.